Welcome into the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show. I'm Corey, and this is our first episode of the Top 10. Now that the draft is over, it's time to reflect on the top 10 rookie winners from the 2021 NFL Draft. The key difference between this show and all others is that I'll do my best not to overreact to the draft hype, but instead look at the individual talents and the legitimate situations they may have landed in. So without further ado, let's get things started. Honorable mention, Amari Rodgers, Green Bay. It was an interesting weekend for the Packers, to say the least, but hey, ESPN needed something to get their viewers into the first round. The Aaron Rodgers situation reeks of something that'll get worked out before the season starts, as Rodgers has now gained the semi-diva tag for me. So I fully expect the returning MVP to be in the green and gold. Why is he not a total diva? Well, because he has a point. The Pack has done very little to give him weapons in the passing game outside of Davante Adams. Enter Amari Rodgers, an NFL-ready slot guy who immediately emerges as a potential middle-of-the-field option for Aaron. Looking forward a few months, I fully anticipate this being on everyone's radar, but for now, this pick is flying under the radar. We know what's there outside of Adams in Green Bay, and it hasn't been pretty. And an NFL-ready slot guy should have you dreaming of a certain slot receiver who found many great years playing up north. Number 10, Trey Sermon, San Francisco. Michael Carter is a fun pick here too, but I'm going to go with my gut on this one. The third-round running back pick is exciting, but there are many who doubt Trey Sermon. Leading up to the draft, I actually dove into some rookie research, and Sermon may be the prospect I got most excited about. Why? I love taking advantage of faulty narratives around rookies, and Sermon's transferred schools knock has nothing to do with talent. Sermon's college tape is pretty fun to watch, and his NFL landing spot gives me hope. A 49ers backfield with an off-injured speedster and a couple of career backups makes me think that Sermon will start the year as an RB4, RB5, and be drafted as such, but has the potential to reach an RB2 ceiling if all breaks right. Number 9, Terrace Marshall Jr., Carolina. 6'3" wideout? Yes, please. Guy who consistently performed in college despite being constantly overshadowed by other studs. Love that. Getting to go into a wide receiver-friendly situation where he'll most likely be the third wide receiver on the field day one with room to grow? Sign me up. I really like this pick for Carolina, and I think it will be one that gains traction as fantasy drafts approach. Marshall steps into a situation where he grows with a potentially young and intriguing offense. And if you're like me and think Robbie Anderson's out of nowhere ascension and pretty quick deflation in fantasy circles was legit, then there's a pretty nice hole to fill in this Panthers offense. Sam Darnold finally has some weapons to work with, and Marshall may emerge as one of his favorites. Number 8, Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville. The worst kept secret for 6 months was the Jaguars' 2021 quarterback being already decided. A highly touted prospect who seemingly will not miss comes into a good, but not great situation. The new coach, Urban Meyer, at face value seems like a positive. But not many seem to be talking about the fact that the great college to NFL coaches and vice versa don't always work out. Lawrence is not stumbling into a dream fantasy situation either. His wide receivers are okay at best, the O-line is fine as far as we know, and the defense doesn't exactly promise to stop opposing offenses, meaning Lawrence may be on the sidelines more than we expect. From an NFL standpoint, this is obviously a home run. From a fantasy standpoint, temper expectations. Number 7, Jaylen Waddle, Miami. What? How dare I put the 6th overall selection in the draft this low? Well, on draft night, I was surprised to see Waddle go before college teammate Devonta Smith. Waddle is the next guy in line to profile as the next Tyreek Hill, but before we move too much into that narrative, let me remind you of a guy who last year was drafted 12th overall to a team who seemingly needed a deep threat, with a quarterback who demonstrated a tendency to not push the ball down the field in a wide receiver room that had some intriguing options. Sound familiar? Sounds a little bit like Miami this year. All I'm saying is temper expectations, especially for this year. We still need to see Tua grow. Waddle will need to compete for looks with more established guys and the newly added Will Fuller. And that whole next Tyreek Hill thing, well, that hasn't worked out since Tyreek Hill. Number 6, Devonta Smith, Philadelphia. This one, I wanted to be higher. I really like Devonta Smith as a player, and the landing spot makes you think it's a match made in heaven since there's not much there for Smith to compete with. But my hesitation with this is his quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Hurts gave the Eagles some much-needed sizzle at the end of last season and got Eagles fans excited for life after Wentz. The thing is, we don't know much about his arm. Hurts is still a question mark as a thrower, and a quarter of a season of spectacular plays can't substitute for career-long efficiency. I'm willing to listen to those who think things will be okay in Philly, and Smith will quickly become the number one option for a very serviceable passing offense, but I fear a Hollywood Brown scenario for the Heisman winner. He'll be drafted as a flashy wide receiver too, but should probably be looked at as more of a risky wide receiver 3. Number 5, Javonte Williams, Denver. When will we learn? Running backs never end up in the positions we want. But I actually really like this landing spot for Williams. Prior to Lindsey's injury in 2020, the Denver backfield was a clear committee, with the coaching staff looking for a reason to find a lead guy. Closing in on the midway point, you'd be hard-pressed to tell me that they weren't showing their hand a bit, that they had found their lead guy. In surprise, it wasn't Melvin Gordon. Philip Lindsay was seeing more goal line work and first and second down work than I expected. It wasn't until Lindsay got injured, again, that Gordon found a workhorse role. The trade up and pick for Williams proves to me Denver wants to start with a committee again, and I fully expect Gordon to be the first one out of the gate. But if you watch the end of the 2020 season, Melvin didn't look like old Melvin. The tread is definitely wearing on this veteran running back, and with his contract up this year, it may be in Denver's best interest to try and groom their rookie runner into a lead back of the future. There's RB3 floor here, with RB2 upside. Number 4, Travis Etienne, Jacksonville. I feel like this year's draft didn't have as many strange picks as years past. For the first time in a while, mocks leading up to the draft were pretty darn close. And while there were some mocks where Etienne landed with the Jags, this still came as a shock to many. Coming off of a diamond-in-the-rough season from undrafted free agent James Robinson, many thought that the new coaching staff would address the defense and passing attack before they touched a runner to complement Robinson. And then, with the 25th pick, Jacksonville went with the explosive runner out of Clemson. Now, the reason Etienne isn't higher is because of Robinson's presence. But the reason why he's in the top half of this list is because you can't ignore two things: the talent and the stock the team put in him. I fully believe the Robinson has almost no value and Etienne is the guy to own early narrative will fade as training camp ramps up, and you'll see these guys ranked much closer to one another. Etienne should be drafted as an RB3, who will be drafted as an RB2, but there's no denying, RB1 upside is there. Number 3, Jamar Chase, Cincinnati. I wanted Chase to appear earlier on this list. I wanted to have that controversial take that this landing spot is not as exciting as people think, but that was a pipe dream. The more I reflect on what this can be, the more I'm getting more and more optimistic. Chase is a star waiting to happen, there's no denying that. But the situation seems crowded in Cincy. But is it? Tyler Boyd is underrated, yes, but he's certainly a better number 2 or number 3 option on a prolific offense compared to a key cog. And T. Higgins has a really fun rookie year behind him, but, and I may be alone here, I never saw the superstar others wanted to see. Enter Chase, who may take a while to assert himself as the 1A for Joe Burrow, but should be able to do that in due time. Chase starts the season as a nice mid-round wide receiver 3 for me, which I know may sound bad, but isn't. Remember, there are so many consistent and reliable wide receiver 2s already in position out there, so don't overpay. Why is he a mid-round guy, though, if he's just a wide receiver 3? Well, because there's realistic wide receiver 2 potential here with dreamy wide receiver 1 upside. Number 2, Kyle Pitts, Atlanta. Sign me up. But tight ends are never usable their rookie year, but Atlanta already has Ridley and Julio. But, look, the tight end landscape is an absolute mess and has no reliable options outside of the top 3. Yes, top 3, Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, and the rest of those guys you want to lump in with Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller don't count. Let's be realistic here. Enter Pitts, who is being described as a unicorn. Not good, not great, a unicorn. No generational tight end has entered the modern NFL, which is a big deal. Every team needs at least 3 viable receiving options if they want to have a stellar passing offense, which clearly Atlanta wants to. The Falcons are committing to an offense which wants to fly. Pitts can surely bust in his rookie year, but I will not listen to anyone who doesn't proclaim that there isn't a chance he could enter the elite level of tight ends even this year in his rookie year. Sign me up. Number 1, Naji Harris, Pittsburgh. Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. These are the guys who came out of the draft with the rookie runner to own tag placed firmly on them. And if you don't get too cute, they all pretty much lived up to the hype. At the very least, like CEH, they were serviceable enough to start most weeks and helped your team. At best, like Zeke and Saquon, they become the cornerstone of your team. That's got to be Najee this year, who lands in one of the dream situations with absolutely no one real to compete with at the running back position. If there was a guy who had the workhorse prototype, it was Harris, and now he seems to be primed to fill that role. Don't tell me about the offensive line. Those get better and worse year by year. Don't tell me about a deteriorating offense, because with a strong defense like Pittsburgh, they love guys who can kill the clock and pick up points. Najee is a no-brainer. It's an RB2 floor with realistic RB1 upside. He should be a round 3 pick at least, and it should be a fun ride.
Royalty-free music courtesy of Ben Sound. The views and opinions expressed on today's episode are that of the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show. Remember to like and subscribe.